Okay, I believe we are now live on Facebook in the AJC Coaching Career School 2023 Facebook group. This is an unscheduled uh, broadcast. That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm joined here by Deryl Sweeney. Hey, Deryl.
Hey.
So Deryl is someone who has joined the second cohort of the school. He's also someone who is an apprentice of mine. We're just finishing up our first apprenticeship and heading into our second year apprenticeship. He's extremely committed and is flying over from Louisville, Kentucky, all the way in the United States of America to attend the school and grow his coaching practice beyond what it is already. And I really acknowledge him for his commitment. Deryl is so fun to coach, and really, we've covered so much, not just the coaching business, but who he is as a man, as a person, and he's very inspiring to me. And one example of that is we just had our regular coaching session this morning, and he said, "Hey, what I want to bring to this session is how do I get the most out of coaching? How do I get the most out of being in the school?" Now, for those of you who've watched the video that Dave Kibbe posted in the group, you'll know that I talked about it in that video. And so the first thing I did was ask Deryl, have you watched the video? He said yes. And I know there's levels to this. I think that's what you said to me. I know there's levels to this, which is such a great thing to say. It shows really the kind of client you are. And so I suggested to Deryl, how about we record this answer? Because I think it's going to help more than just Deryl. I think it's going to be relevant to everyone in the school. And he's very graciously said yes. So is that a good kind of framework and context, Deryl? Is there anything that I missed out?
No, I think that's it. I think that gets us off and running.
Excellent. Now, I want to start with, just so people know and have context for who you are, could you give us a very brief overview in terms of where your coaching practice is right now?
Yeah. In December of 2022, so we were probably 3/4 of the way, maybe a little over half of the way through our apprenticeship, I had built my coaching business to consistently being half full. And one of the big goals I had for the first quarter of this year was to fill that practice. And you and I talked a lot about that in our private sessions. And I've done that. At the time, my goal was to get to 12 full-time clients. And all my clients work with me between 3 and 12 months at a time. And as it stands right now, I've decided to open that up a little bit more to get to 15 full-time clients. Right now, I'm sitting at 14. So I have a good amount of one-to-one coaching sessions going on. I facilitate some workshops and have some other kind of side projects connected to the business. So the business feels very healthy right now. I've probably done, well, I know I've done almost 80% of 2022's revenue. And 22 was a good year for me to begin 2023. So the business is healthy.
Excellent. Excellent. And so just to get some context for you, even though this is relevant to everyone, but just to get context for you in terms of answering this question, do you have an idea of what it would look like to get the most out of this coaching school, this investment you've made?
I don't. Well, do I have an idea? I have an idea. I think it's part of the reason why I wanted to bring the question and look at it a little bit deeper is because I know that there is a lot of great stuff in this for me, right? That's not a stretch. I don't sit here and worry about, am I going to create ROI? Is this going to be something good for me? Is there something that will help me take my business to a new level? Like, that's already written. I know that that's there. So it's very easy for me. And perhaps there's value in this, but I want to look at it. It's very easy for me to come into this wide open. And if you had asked me before, the first immersion, so I've also been on 3 of your immersions now. If you had asked me before the first immersion, I would have told you that I know something's good here. I know that there's something here for me, and I'm wide open to experiencing whatever that is. And it was great for me. I also know that in the subsequent immersions, the more dialed in I get, the more intentional I get with what I bring and how I show up, I'm getting more and more out of them. And so there's something in me saying that that same phenomenon is available to me here. And what I don't want to do is come into this with a first immersion mindset. If I go back to the first immersion, it was great, but I also know that I left some things on the table, right? I sat back and watched, and that there were things left on the table, and I've been committed to not have that happen in subsequent immersions. I don't want to treat this as my first run through the AJC coaching school, right? I want to come back as, I want to show up this first time as if I'm showing up the fifth time, right? I want to be further down the path and just not leave anything on the table, which is kind of the genesis behind the question. So when you ask me if I know what it looks like to get the most out of this, I think on one hand, I think that openness that I spoke to, I think there's something there for me, and that's how I want to show up. My word for the year is commitment. So I want to bring a level of commitment to whatever it is that is coming on this journey, right? I want to show up fully for it, and not get lost in, this is another thing I'm doing, along with coaching clients, along with creating conversation, along with all the other things. And I don't want it to be just another item on my list. I want to bring a level of commitment to showing up fully. And I know that there are things, I can say words, showing up fully. I know that there are levels to that. And I'm guessing there are things that I may not be aware of. So this feels like let's just shine the flashlight in all the places and really start to understand what showing up fully looks like.
Yeah. And I want to say something before I start. I know Raghav Burkash had asked me to record this. Apologies, Rag, we haven't done that. And I'm doing this with Deryl, but I would say I can have this conversation several times before September. And I may do this again with Rag or someone else. And if you've seen the video I did with Dave, don't kind of switch off. Listen to this fresh, because like you say, there's levels of hearing the same content. Okay. And this is just going to be stream of consciousness as our coaching sessions are. I don't take notes and, whatever comes out in the moment. So there'll be some things that I'm sure I've said before. There'll be some things I haven't. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is listening. And again, you've heard me talk about this several times, but listen to it fresh, right? There's this school, and the experience of the school is a co-creation. So I can bring my best to this school. I can show up and I will, more powerfully than I ever have done before. I'm going to bring even more than I did last time, which was an amazing school. And that's only half the equation. The other half is whatever you, Deryl, and every single other person bring to the school to create the experience for them. Now, part of that is the listening they bring. If they bring a level of listening, which is, well, I don't know, I guess some of the stuff Kush says is all right, and I'm a bit skeptical, but everyone says it's great. Let's see what he's got. And if they show up with that level of listening, if you show up with that level of listening, you're going to get less than this school is going to give me anything that I want in my coaching practice. It's going to help me create anything I want and more. And this is exactly what I need to hear right now at this moment. It's a different level of listening. Now, I've spoken about this in India. I've spoken about this before. Now, if I'm the guy that you listen to like that, great. If I'm not, who would you listen to like that? Is it Steve Hardison? Is it Sydney Banks? Is it Werner Erhard? Is it Byron Katie? Is it Eckhart Tolle? Is it your grandmother? There'll be someone you listen to where you would take on board absolutely everything. It could be Elon Musk. You'd be listening with absolute open ears. And this is true for you, Deryl, as an existing client. It may be tempting, it may be easy to go, oh, I've heard Kush talk about this before, so I'm just going to put that to one side. Like, I'm going to switch off for a little bit. I'm just going to cruise back. as he goes through this section. And what I would say is, whether you're my client or whether you're not my client, showing up with that level of listening, you don't realize how much that impacts the quality and level of what you get from the course. It's massive. It's humongous. Now, I'm not saying this to be like, hey, put me on a pedestal. This isn't about me. I'm going to bring my best, self to this school. This is about what you're going to get from that. And I can't remember if I spoke about this with Dave, but like, there's a range, right? So let's say we're going to have 36 people in the school. It's going to be a bell curve in terms of what people get from the school. Now, ideally for me, it's going to be skewed in the direction of people getting loads out of the school, but there will be a bell curve. There are going to be some people who might as well have not been in the school. Unfortunately, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that's not the case. But like I said, I can only do half. There are going to be some people that they'll sign up for the school, they'll get some nice information, but really it's going to have no impact on their business. There'll be a bunch of people in the middle that will get really great value. They'll love the school. They're glad they joined up. And there's going to be some people at the other end of the other extreme, which are going to be like, they're going to get 100 times the value they paid for the school. And when I look at the last school, it's kind of what happened, right? Like Moritz Lambert, who's in this school, he made his money back from the school before the school started, right? He showed up in a certain way where he got so much from the school, right? And I'm just using him and his example, but there are other people. That listening, that way that you show up, that makes a huge difference. That's number one. So you want to get the most out of school, don't listen to me with skepticism. And I'm not saying don't use your brain, but I'm saying be open, be really open. The more open you are, the more you'll get out of this. And I saw this, I see things when I'm at the front of the room. When I was teaching, I could see, well, this person's listening and that person's half asleep. And if you talk to the half asleep person, they're like, no, I'm listening. They weren't. Right. So you want to see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's landing in a way that, between the emergence, between our conversations and some other things, we've talked a lot about listening, but even now, this is settling in a different way. And I'm really seeing how it's waking me up to the opportunity to not be the half asleep person in the room, because I can see how I can even show up in that way. And I do at times, and say, yeah, I'm listening. But again, this is the exact thing. There's something more there for me. So I think it's helping me bring a different level of commitment to showing up with the most open listening I have.
Right. So you that's the first thing. And then what that looks like in terms of who you're being in the school is really important. We've got our second webinar next week, right? Come around really quick. Now, you can show up to those webinars like kind of, half asleep or, whatever. And again, I've changed the timing because there are some people like Farah, amazing. She's committed and traveling from India for this. And the normal time that I do these webinars, they're very late for her in the middle of the night. And she still attended the last one. So this time I've kind of moved it to the afternoon time. Make these a priority. There are going to be some people in the school who are going to say, hey, you know what? I have got something on at that time. Well, this is why this time around, we've given all like the other 4 dates. Well, all 5, they're all there, right? We've given them up front. So there is time for people to move things around or get themselves in a position where they can be live on the webinar. If you can be live, and you don't have to be, we've created it in a way, but you're asking me, how can I get the most out of the school? This is not an expectation for anyone, but I'm just saying, if you want to get the most out of it, be there live. If you want to get the most out of it, be there live and ask a question. Last time round, we had Johannes ask like 5 questions beforehand, but that's helpful. It's helpful because everyone's going to have slightly different questions, and that kind of takes the webinar in a certain direction. So have that. Also, I would say, and this is just stream of consciousness, don't, and just generally with your coaching calls, whatever, have half an hour after the call finishes free, right? Last time round, we went over. We'll probably go over again this time round. If you can hang on, hang on. Don't just rush off. And then the same for coaching calls or anything. It's the same for the school. Don't just rush off. There are interactions to be had. There are connections to be made. There's space for reflecting on what was shared, the opportunities to go and take action. So you want to create that space for it. You want to be there, and also don't be late. And again, you're late for the webinars, right? But if you can be there like 5 minutes early, I mean, I open the room often 15, 10 minutes early. It's really interesting, right? It's available and open. And sometimes before we go record, there might be something shared. And this has happened. I'm just not talking about the school, and I don't do it on purpose. But sometimes stuff gets shared in those few minutes before we record. That's gold. I'm like, oh, I better start recording now. And people can miss that. So you want to get them, and again, you don't need to do this, but you want to get the most out of the school. Show up early. It's the same with being in the room, right? Last time round, we had people who would show up late, right? It's disruptive to the school. It's kind of distracting when someone comes in the room physically, but also they're missing out. They're missing out on that first 20 minutes or half an hour. We've given all the times and dates up front. If you're not sure, ask your adults. But again, you want to be there on time and early, right? And use them. This is like a gym. We've got the best equipment in the gym. We've got the best trainers. But if you don't show up, or if you just show up and stand in the corner, it's not going to do anything for you. But if you use it, like you've said, hey, I've increased my level of clients. I've got 14, the business in a healthy place. Well, what's your biggest challenge? How do I get that final one? Or when is the right time for me to increase my fees? Or can we run game film on a particular client? Or I'm delivering this training. I'm going to do this. I was wondering if you could give me some feedback. Bring those questions into these preschool laser sessions. Also, there's a bunch of stuff we're sharing, which is bonus. And again, they're bonus. They're not compulsory. We're not making people do this. But you're asking me, how do I get the most out of the school? Listen to everything. So I think we shared recently social self versus professional self. Listen to it, right? And don't just listen to it, like listen to it and then comment. I also notice this on the Facebook group, and I'm aware of this. I watch it. It's one thing listening to it. There's another thing. Hey, I listened to this. This was my key takeaway. That's really powerful. The more it's easy to take something in and think I get it. When you have to articulate it, that is when it tests actually your ability to see how much did I really absorb. Right? So engage, use it like a gym, engage. I posted the first preschool webinar and I put underneath, everyone, please leave your comments below. There's 20, I think 9 people in the school now. Okay, not everyone was there when it was recorded. But I think we've got less than 10 people have responded to leave their comments from the first preschool webinar. If you want to get the most out of it, respond. You want to get the most out of it, respond to the bonuses. Is this helpful? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it's very helpful. It's just little things I'm seeing. It's so easy for me. And I think we spoke about this on the first webinar. There's so much content, and not only what's being shared by you and Felipe, but what other people are sharing, that it's really easy to get lost in. Okay, I'm going to listen to everything, so I'm going to check those boxes. Or, hey, I was at the first webinar live. So even when you're saying, hey, I've asked people to comment, it's never crossed my mind to go back and rewatch that, because there's so much over here still left to watch or left to consume. But that feels like an answer to my question. Like, if you really want, like, there's gold here, and we've acknowledged that we're having this conversation that you've already started and had at a level with Dave Kibbe. But by listening, by wanting to have it again, there's something more for me. The same is true, I'm sure, in that webinar and listening to that. And in everything you're saying, I am seeing the levels. And it's funny, just as I'm jotting down some notes, I can show up to the second webinar. I will be there live. But there's a deeper level, right? You want to take that to a level, come prepared. Even the thought process before that webinar to say, what question do I want to bring into that space, right? I can show up and listen and absorb and get something out of it. But even if I never ask the question, there'd be value in me having a question in my mind, having gone through that thought process. So I'm seeing these levels that are available to me, right? There's a level of I can be there and be present, but I can create it in my calendar in a way that allows me to be open and available before that call even begins. Even if I'm the only one in the room, there's probably something there for me. And the same thing on the back end on after. So whether you're talking about the webinar, whether you're talking about the recorded content that's available in the group, I use the word levels as we started, but I'm really seeing that in every individual piece of what's on offer from the school, there are levels and how to show up, not only from how I hear it, how I'm listening to it, but also the way I interact and engage with it, the way I use the comments. I think you saw that I went back and watched the conversation that you and Amir had, and I created a post from it. And it's amazing because creating that post helped me see it deeper. And then seeing people's comments and engaging with those helped me see it deeper. And I've really fallen in love with that distinction, caught versus taught. And yeah, it's landing for me deeper because of what I did with it, rather than just listening to that conversation that you and Amir had. And that same thing, I love that you're pointing out, is available in anything you and Felipe are putting together as a part of the school.
Yeah. So this brings me on to another topic. Like Dave Kibbe, and I'll shout out to Dave, has been really, really vocal that he's joined the school, has been using the school already to create content. And now people might think, oh, he's got sucked into the cult of the school or something. And no, this is going to lead to a ton of income for Dave. And I don't know if Dave realizes this or not, but Dave creating this newsletter and interviewing people in the school and talking about what he's learning from the school, that's going to have people connect with Dave. That's going to have people want to talk to Dave. That's going to have people want to hire Dave. Yeah, sure. It's not bad for the school. It is, definitely it can help me getting the word out for the school. But the main person who's going to benefit from that is Dave. When you watch the video with Amir from last year and you share it, caught versus taught, that distinction, the main person who's going to benefit from that is not Amir, is not me, it's you, Deryl, because you're the one sharing it. And people don't realize this. So if I wanted to get the most out of the school, every single thing that I would learn, I would be posting about it. I would make notes on the webinar and I'd write 3 or 4 posts about what did I learn from the first webinar. When I did Steve Chandler School, I don't do this, but he used to do these 1-minute videos every single day. So 1-minute video every day. I would use the video of the day to create a post. So and sometimes I'd say the opposite. It's not about agreeing with him. It's not about copying what he said, but he might share something. And I'm like, you know what? I actually see things differently. I would use it as inspiration to write something. And when I would write that, it was creating clients for me. It was creating conversations for me. It was creating connections for me. It was growing my network, my community, right? So you guys have all paid a ton of money and commit energy, time to be in the school. So use it. Don't hide that away. Like, hey, I'm doing Ankush school, but I don't want to tell anyone because, well, then it's going to be like promoting Ankush and no, it doesn't work that way, right? When you share about being in the school and what you're learning, it will massively, and I mean massively, help you. There will be people who may look at that quote versus taught and say, Deryl, can you come into my company and teach that distinction? They're not going to come to me or Amir. They're going to come to you because they know you, right? And we had this in the last school where so many people were sharing about what they're learning in the school. It led to a ton of clients being created for those people, right? And it doesn't necessarily just mean coaches. Someone might see something you've written and they're not a coach, but they resonate with it. They like it. They like that you invest in yourself. They like that you're being, when you share what you're learning, it's easier to feel like you're in rapport with that person. It feels like you know the person, as opposed to them being an expert and trying to teach you something from a higher level. right? So yes, comment, engage in the group, but publicly, you also want to share.
Yeah, I remember you and I having, this isn't the first time we've had a conversation around sharing what we're learning, sharing what I'm seeing. I know one of,
And this is live. I'm just gonna have to run to the door because I realize
yeah.
no one's answering it. 1 second. Sorry about that. My wife's also on a
No.
call.
What's striking me, Kush, is this isn't the first time we've had this conversation. I remember this was one of the early conversations we had when I enrolled with you as an apprentice. And, this has been one of the things in my business that, we've talked about content and everything else, but it's been one of the things that sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I can create a bunch of stories about time and busyness and all the other stuff. But the reality is just sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And this feels like an opportunity to take the things that we're doing in the school, kind of these touch points, and do more with it. And if I can build that muscle, you talk about this being a gym, if I can build that muscle, then it feels like something that will serve me long after the school. And to your point, it is, that's one of the big shifts that I've had in the way that I share and the way that I write. I think when you and I met, I still had a lot of thinking around writing as the expert, being the expert. I'm to the point now where I'm simply just sharing my experiences, sharing what I'm learning and what I'm seeing. And again, I told you there's a level in everything. The way that I share, and not even the way that I share, but what I share, and we'll call it the frequency of sharing, it feels like there's another level here. And this feels like one of those things. Well, cool, make a choice. You can, or, I will or I won't. And it's just an opportunity to take this, because every time you and I talk about it in every coaching session, one of the ways that I use that integration slot after our sessions is to, sometimes I create a post about it. Hey, I just learned this, or we just talked about this, or I just saw this. And sometimes I don't. And I always, in my mind, it's always an intention. It's always something I want to do, or something I intend to do, or something I will eventually do. And this feels like an opportunity to create a system to do this that serves me, that serves the people in my world, right? And this is, I say serves me because I'm not afraid to be selfish here. I tell people freely, hey, the things that I write, it is in service to the people in my world, but it deepens my own understanding. It's what I tell my clients, like, be selfish about it. So this feels like an opportunity to really be selfish about taking anything I'm hearing as a part of the school to another level by sharing it. And that a byproduct of that could be, and from what you're pointing to, will be, yeah, people are going to pay attention, and it can create ROI. It can create clients. It can create conversations from doing that. So there's another one of those places where this sharing more freely feels like a real opportunity here.
Yeah.
This is strong. How important is it? Because coaches, it's really easy for us to talk about vision and talk about creation and all this stuff. How important is it to have a very clear, specific outcome that we want to create in our business? Because sometimes I do, and sometimes it's, it's fuzzy. Like, I can see the big picture of where it's going, but well, the end of last year, cool, I want to build a full practice. That was a very clear, concise goal. There's some things I'm building this, but if you ask me right now, what is it specifically that you want to create by the end of 2023, or by the end of your time in the school, that is new or different, or bigger, or whatever word you would use in your business? The word growth would come to mind. I want to keep pushing this envelope forward, but there's not a specific thing right now that I would point to and say, okay, this doesn't exist in my business. And by the time I get out of school, I want that to exist.
Mm.
So my question is, how important is it to have a specific thing or those sets of things that we want to create in our business as we walk into this?
You know, it's such a great question because I can really relate to that. I've had moments where I've had, you know, a goal, and there's moments where it's just been, I want to keep growing. And here's the thing, right now, I don't know exactly, but I think I'm in the top 0.1% of coaches globally in terms of the income I make. I would estimate, right? In terms of my revenue. I'm not saying that to show off. I'm just saying that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm really reminded. So there's a great book by Steve Chandler called Shift Your Mind, Shift the World. And just the first couple of chapters are great. And he talks about Elvis. And everyone's talking about dream big, have big dreams, have big goals. And Elvis's goal was to record a song for his mother. And he went into this recording studio, created this like little song on I guess on vinyl, and took it home. And the guy who owned this, like the studio, this place that you could do this, he sent it to his buddy. Went, you need to listen to this guy, and yet becoming like one of the greatest, you know, stars, you know, musical stars of all time, right? And I can relate to that. When I started coaching, I meet a lot of coaches like, oh, I want to make 6 figures, I want to make 7 figures. When I started, all I cared about was like, if I can just make £30,000 a year, which was less than my corporate salary. It's not even my corporate. It's like, hey, that's less than what I'm earning now, but how much do I really need? You know, if I can make 30K, oh man, I can live on that. That was my only goal, right? I didn't even care about making 6 figures. Then when I moved to London, it was a bit more. I was like, probably I need to make 50 because it's more expensive to live in London. But I didn't have these massive big goals. And yet I stayed on the path. And this has really been a calling for me, you know? And that's, I feel like a lot of people in the school are similar to that. I don't think, and it's probably because of the way I'm selling the school, I don't think there's people in the school, and I may be wrong. And if you've got a big goal, that's great. But I don't see people in like, oh, I want to go from 0 to 100K and like by the end of the school. I mean, it's possible. But I think really the people in the school are the ones that are really heart-centered, who want to do great work, who want to come from service, and they want to go, well, how do we do that in a way that makes us money? And I believe that the more we are coming from that place, the more money we'll actually make.
As you were talking, I could literally feel the thinking just around that drop away, because the question that I've had, because what the way you're describing it is really where I am. When you say on the path, I feel very much that I'm on the path. I feel very much that this next year there are amazing things available to me and for me. There are amazing things that I'm going to be creating. And I can create just, I can have thinking around, okay, well, if that's true, you need to know exactly what it is or what you want to create or what you want to do. And it's really easy to get inspired by a vision like the one that Nick shared with the group, you know, and, oh, I should have a big vision or have this thing, but to just be on the path and stay on the path, right? This feels like a path that never ends for me. And I can really see that. And to just be on the path and keep moving, stay in motion, stay in action, remain a student on that path feels like where I am. And to just see that, yeah, cool, do that. That's good. Thanks.
You know, a lot of what's created in the school is done very, very deliberately, Daryl. Right. And there are all these lessons that we have to learn. I was talking to someone yesterday who may or may not come to the school. It's likely that they won't, just some financial shortfall. But I just served her. I had a conversation, I served her. And I said, you know, whether you come to the school or not, I'm really looking to change the industry. And that means helping everyone. And she was very, very heart-centered, you know, whatever. And I said, here's the thing. one of the things I've had to overcome is so many layers of thinking around money. I've had to overcome thinking around so many different things. Am I good enough? What am I capable of? Who? All this stuff to be the guy that is able to run the school and have a successful coaching practice. Right. And so I bring all of that into the school as much as I can, and I leave it to your wisdom to decide. Like, I'm sharing with you everything, right? And you can take which bits you want to apply to you, right? And I've got an example of that, right? And again, this might not resonate with some people, but it will with others. Part of the reason I picked the hotel I picked, right? Okay, it's not the best hotel in London. There are some really, really swanky hotels in London, but it's pretty good. It's right opposite Buckingham Palace. It's a 5-star hotel. I love the guy in the red hat outside opening the door for us, right? And there's a certain quality, like the food that they made for us last year, the breaks. It wasn't just standard cookies, it was like a level above. And I remember going into this hotel like 20 years ago and feeling really intimidated, like I didn't belong. And part of the reason I use this hotel is to say, no, I belong in places like this, right? We belong in places like this. I'm being a stand for the profession. Like this, to me, it should be as prestigious a profession as being a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or any other profession, right? Any other profession. And Steve would say it should be more so because we have more of a positive impact, right? But I want to be a stand for that. And there are lots of places I could have run the school in London, which are way, way cheaper, right? So I haven't done this for ego. I've done it because I was like, oh, I want this to represent something, right? I want it to represent that, this is a nice venue we're doing it in, and coaches belong somewhere here. Now, something that happened last year was they wouldn't give us, a room rate, or the room rate they gave us was worse than you could get, yourself. And they said, we need you to guarantee rooms. And I said, look, I can't guarantee rooms because it's not part of the package. And, there's some people who didn't want to stay at the hotel. But to me, I was like, I really want people to have this experience. And again, I will admit, it's not the nicest hotel in the world because it's central London. The rooms are quite small. But I went back and I was relentless. Even the lady who deals with them on with other clients, and she books the stuff for us, she couldn't get anything. And I contacted, this shows a bit about me. I found out the CEO's name of not the hotel, of the group of hotels, contacted him, got through to his assistant. She put me in contact with someone. And now we have negotiated rates to stay at the Rubens, for the dates of the school. And not only that, so the guy gave me the rates and he went, hey, are you okay with these rates? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And I said, but I've noticed you include continental breakfast, right? But there's an additional charge for a full breakfast here. And he said, yeah, that's true. And I said, I want you to throw in a full breakfast. I said, that's really important for me. Because now here's the thing, the breakfast at this place, it's like £40. It's like really expensive, but it's outstanding. And the motto of the school is, I misspoke, but maybe I didn't. The motto of the hotel is, we want to provide stuff that's so exceptional that we don't want people to question the price. Totally in line with the school. When we give something so excellent, like, yeah, it's expensive, but we want it to be so good that we go, do you know what? Yeah, this is a bit expensive, but it's something a bit special. This is kind of worth it, right? So my hope is, last time, again, we didn't get the rates. I think there was only one lady who stayed one weekend, another lady who stayed another weekend. This time around, you can stay wherever you want. My suggestion to you, and especially you flying over from the States, is if you can really stay in the hotel, make it, because it makes it easier. You come down in the morning, you got breakfast there, we're in the room next door. You're not rushing around, you're not racing anywhere, you're not rushing to go off somewhere else afterwards. You can connect with people. It's easy. And it's something about belonging in a 5-star hotel. You can find rooms for £100 a night. And Steve Chandler did this when I went to ACS. He would always stay, and I would get pissed off. I'm like, dude, why do you do it in the most expensive hotels? And I would stay there, and it'd be like $300 a night or something. And then I asked him about it once. I can't remember, but it was like, if he's teaching us about prosperity, he doesn't want to do it in a dump. Now, to be fair, I think he had some deal with these hotels where if I get this many people, we'll get the room cheaper or whatever. But I'm not even doing it for that. I do see it that staying there, again, you want to talk about getting the most out of the school. I think there's something about that. There's something about staying there that's different to, oh, let me slum it and get somewhere cheaper. Right. And look, if you want to save a bit of money and you don't want to go there, ask us. There's a couple of hotels very, very nearby that are cheaper, but they're still nice. Like, I personally wouldn't suggest you stay somewhere like that's half an hour away and it's a bit of a dump. And these things, we're creating ourselves in a way, right? Like the whole, oh, I don't know if I'm worth this much money. I don't know if I could charge. This all plays into that.
Yeah.
Right. So all this stuff is very, very like, it's deliberate. And I'm always thinking about this. If I can do anything to make it better, to improve it, it's all very deliberate. And the principle of the hotel, the way they really focus on service, it's a really big reason why I use them.
Yeah. Even in that, I mean, I can see some of the money stuff coming up. Right. And to your point, the travel that's involved, the time away, just all the stuff there. So that is certainly something to explore more. And I'm glad you brought it up, because that's been one of the questions that I've been asking is, yeah, what kind of experience do I want to create for myself? And seeing the thinking that comes up around that, just around the money of it, right, tells me that it has less to do with the school and the hotel, but it's just the money stuff that's in there, right? Something else to play with, which we'll get to do through revisiting Barbara Stanley's book.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm glad you brought that into this conversation.
Beautiful. I mean, there's probably a load of other stuff that I haven't said, but I mean, is that helpful?
Yeah, this has been perfect. This has been incredibly helpful. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't retreat into a hole on, okay, I'll just go watch Dave Kibbe's interview again and leave it there, because there are things that have come up and that I'm seeing in a different way through this conversation. So thanks for revisiting this.
Yeah, no problem. And I did remember one thing that I was going to say earlier is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll keep saying it. Please make an effort to connect with other people in the school before September. Right? Yes, all this stuff takes time and energy. I wouldn't say it if it was just oh, this is a nice thing to do. Everything I'm suggesting is, I think it's a good investment of time. Right? There are some incredible people: Nick Bottini, John Dashfield, Peter McCammon, Victoria Green, Dorothy Martin. I've got the list in front of me of everyone who's in the school, right? Including Dave Kibbe. But, like, connect with everyone in the school. Make time, or at least offer to reach out and connect with them. I cannot tell you how much more you'll get out of the school if you do that. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I know everyone's busy, but we've got time. We've got several months before September. Having a couple of conversations a week, and they can be relatively short, but just even those connection calls, you'll get through a lot of people by September. You'll connect with a lot of people. And those conversations, they could become your future coach. They could become your future client. They could become your future collaborator, and you could run a course or a program together. They may share something that will be worth the price of the entire school. There are some incredible people in the school. Really, that's a really big part of what you're paying for, is the network, the people that we're getting together, all looking in this direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just talking to somebody who's also in the school about it's natural, I think, and well, I'll just speak for me, to see this as, okay, between going over for the school and the immersions, like, this time out of my business, right? Creating these conversations. They're not conversations with the people that have helped me build the business to this standpoint. There's something other than, there's something else. So I can create thinking around them being something other than, well, this is time out of my business. But even you sharing that here, it's not. I mean, this is the business. This is being on the path. This is the growth. And these things are they're part of the investment if I make them so. So even that small shift in you sharing that last tidbit is, no, this isn't time out of my business at all.
Yeah.
Today here in Louisville, Kentucky, on Saturday, we have the Kentucky Derby. So it's the most famous horse race in the United States. And so this whole week, there's just all these different things. And I saw that thinking, because today I'm going to the track later on. And I could see it as time outside of my business, but I'm going to be connecting with hundreds of people. Right? There's a ton that I can create from that place while enjoying myself, while having fun. So right now, I'm seeing this opportunity to shift some things in the way that I see time in my business and time out of my business. And they're not as separate as I sometimes make them out to be.
That's it.
No, this is great. Thank you very much for this. This is perfect. I'm glad we recorded it.
Yeah, me too. And I'm sure I'll cover many of these points again. And, but they're worthwhile repeating. Oh, I keep remembering more stuff just to keep on the same vibe, right? Steve Hardison, when I hired him for my Be With session, first thing he said is go to my website, read every single word from the whole website, read the whole website. And I'm thinking, damn. And I'd read the website before, but I read it again. That experience changed me. You want to get the most out of the school? Go back to the website, read every single word we've written on the website. It's very deliberate. And there's tons of links. We've got links from all the interviews from last year of people who come to the school. Watch those videos that you've watched, Court versus Talk with Amir. Watch all the videos from last year. Read every single word on the website. There's a 74-page brochure. One of the best things you can do is read every single word of that brochure. You don't have to do it. It's not compulsory, but you're asking me how to get the most out of the school. Go through that. You will be amazed at how much there's in there. And it's great prep work for when we do the school.
Yeah.
All right. And then share anything that you want from it.
Yeah. I'll do it.
All right. Thanks, Deryl, for recording this. Thank you for bringing the question. And I look forward to seeing everyone on the preschool webinar next week.
Yeah, man.